Alright, everybody. As promised, I'm looking here right now at the Golden Ticket Awards, and I'm going to give you my take on who I think deserved what they got, and parks I think that might have gotten a lot more votes than they probably should have. Let's start right at the top. Best park. Well, I haven't been to Europa Park. I've heard nothing but good things about the park, so I really can't argue with them being the best park. I can, however, argue with the second place position, Cedar Point. I can think of about 5 to 7 parks that I like better than Cedar Point. Not all of them are in the United States, and if you look at the remainder of this list, aside from Europa, every park is in the United States. I find that the Golden Tickets Awards tend to be very, very biased to parks here in the U.S. Parks like Alton Towers, Blackpool Pleasure Beach are also phenomenal places that really never show up much in the Golden Tickets. But you get a park like Cedar Point that has this reliant fan base that constantly votes in their rides and constantly votes them up near the top, whether or not they deserve it. I think Dollywood is a far better park. I think Knoebels is a better park. Disneyland is definitely a better park than Cedar Point. Cedar Point might have a lot of coasters, but I'd rather have quality over quantity. Both of the Busch parks, in my opinion, deserve to be high up in that list as well. Best water park, really got no argument with that part of the list. Schlitterbahn, far and away, by far, the best water park I've ever been to. I've got no argument with that at all. The children's parks as well. That list is really well done, as well as the Marine Life Park. Really, where you start getting into places that I disagree is when you start getting into things like the master list of the top 25 steel coasters. Fury 325, ranked number 1. Not even in my top 10. Millennium Force? You mean Millennium Forceless? That coaster does not belong in the top 10. It doesn't even make the top 25 in my list. In fact, it's not even the best coaster at Cedar Point. So let's take those top 2 spots and throw them right off the list. Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England. Well, when it first opened with the original comfortable restraints, this ride was number 1 in my book. With the current restraints, it falls down a little bit because it's not as comfortable as it used to be. So I really can't put this as a number 1 coaster, and I'll get to more about why I can't put it as the number 1 coaster in a minute, but I definitely can't. Iron Rattler, I can't argue one way or the other because I haven't ridden it. The same goes for Expedition G-Force. I've heard great things about both rides, but until I ride them, I can't really offer an honest opinion. Leviathan, Canada's Wonderland. Another great coaster. I don't believe it's a top 10. I like a little bit of airtime out of coasters with that kind of speed, and Leviathan and Fury and Millennium Force really have only a couple of small spots of airtime and really don't have it. Nitro, the last time I rode it, no longer a top 10 coaster. It used to be a really good coaster in my opinion, but it's fallen off the ladder just a little bit for me. Diamondback, another one that's just, no, not on the list. Sorry, not in the top 10. Texas Giant, very much agree with this being in the top 10. This was probably my number 1 steel coaster at one time. Not anymore because other coasters have passed it, but it is a phenomenal ride. Definitely deserves to be in the top 10. Maverick. Well, here's the Cedar Point Pan Boys hard at work. No. Doesn't belong in the top 10. Apollo's Chariot. Probably one of the better B&M hypers. Airtime. I can definitely see why that would be a top 10 coaster. Phantom's Revenge. Another ride I really like. Plenty of airtime, very comfortable. Very cool layout using the landscape. I really, really like this ride. I think it's horribly underrated at 12. I think this is more like a top 5. I really, really like Phantom's Revenge. I-305. That's a tough one. I really enjoy this ride. I like the ride a lot. I find the intensity up there, the speed up there. It's not really an airtime ride. It's more about speed and G's and quick turns. If it did not have any upper harnesses at all, and with the soft harnesses it makes it dramatically better, but it still has a harness thing that I'm not as comfortable with because there is something up there and I like to feel a little bit more out of control, a little bit more free to fly. But I really do like this coaster. I can definitely see why on many people's top 10s it's there. That's a borderline top 10 to me. Goliath at Six Flags Over Georgia is definitely one of the better B&M steals. It's a hyper that I really like. I'm torn whether that one belongs on my top 10 or not, but definitely a coaster I do like, and I can understand why this would be highly ranked in the list. Wicked Cyclone. Well, of all of the RMC coasters I've ridden that aren't made of wood, I'm considering Lightning Rod a wood coaster, not a steel, because it has the topper track and not the full iBox conversion. So Wicked Cyclone definitely falls into the steel category, and Wicked Cyclone to me is the best steel coaster at Six Flags New England, and probably my favorite current steel coaster at the moment, just because the ride is relentless from the beginning to the end. It really doesn't feel slow at any point. Chock full of airtime and elements and G-forces. I mean, the ride is really, really well done. This is the type of ride that's excitement from the beginning to the end. No trim brakes, nothing to slow you down, just right out, full speed from top to bottom. That is a great ride. Twisted Colossus I haven't had the pleasure of riding, so I really can't offer much of a review there. Top Thrill Dragster. Oh, here we go. 15-second coaster. Come on, guys. It has one element. A really fast launch up a really tall hill. Yes, 420 feet is frightening. Yes, 120 miles an hour is amazing. The ride is 15 seconds. It doesn't belong in the top 25. I'm sorry. It is a great ride as a one-trick pony, but it's a one-trick pony. But here again, it's at Cedar Point, and the third coaster on the top 25 from Cedar Point. Imagine that. Enough said. Blue Fire, Europa Park. Really, really excited to be able to ride this one at some point in time. I heard great things. Again, can't offer a review on it, sadly. Intimidator at Carowinds. Well, sorry everybody that's a Fury 325 fan. I like Intimidator as the better coaster at Carowinds, mostly because Intimidator has the one thing Fury doesn't, and that's airtime. Again, Intimidator, take it or leave it. It's a good coaster. Not sure it's a top 10, but here they have it at 19, and I think that's probably a pretty fair spot. Nemesis at Alton Towers. This is a sad, sad coaster to see at number 20. This is probably the best example of a B&M invert with the best theming at one of the coolest amusement parks in the world. This coaster belongs in the top 10 every year. This is something that's overlooked because sadly, too many people who are voting for the Golden Ticket Awards just have not yet experienced Nemesis. And it makes it hard to really judge a coaster that you haven't ridden that's of this caliber, especially even watching the videos just don't do it justice. You don't realize how close those canyon walls really are with the speeds that you are going. Terran at Ponceland, sorry I haven't ridden it, really can't give much of a review either way. Banshee at Kings Island. Man, everybody loves this ride. I don't get it. I find it to be a fun invert, but I can put 3 or 4 inverts from B&M that I like better than Banshee. Banshee's a good ride. I don't even think it's the top 5 for the B&Ms. Sorry, guys. Cedar Point Magnum XL 200. Here we go. The first coaster from Cedar Point that I think actually deserves to be in the top 25. Because this one actually has airtime. This one's actually a fun ride. And in my humble opinion, this coaster is actually the best coaster at Cedar Point. That's pretty sad to say, considering we've had 3 others prior to this on this list. And this is the first coaster I agree with. And putting it at 23 is probably a pretty fair spot for it. I don't think it's a top 10, but I don't think it belongs, outside the top 25. Sky Rush at Hershey Park. Well, this is a love-hate coaster. It really is. I think it really depends on how that harness gets you. Some people, it really puts a lot of pressure on the nerves and the legs, and it becomes, really painful. For other people, it doesn't hit them the wrong way, and they find the extreme airtime of this ride to be very, very thrilling. This is one of those coasters that could be, somebody's top 5 and then somebody's bottom 50 really easy, just based on comfort of the ride. X2. Well, rode the original X, did not ride X2. X2 would have to be monumentally smoother than X for me to really put it in the top 25. But as a side note, the flipping seats in the head first drop are absolutely cool. This ride is very unique, very different, and very fun. There's a few coasters I think that probably should have had some consideration. I don't see Mako in this list at all. In my mind, Mako is probably one of the best B&M inverts recently built. B&M hypercoasters recently built, and the coaster is just flat out full of airtime. I think it's an excellent ride. How it manages to avoid the 25 list, I don't know. Especially looking at some of the names that are on here, I don't understand why that coaster's not on the list. Behemoth, another coaster that avoided the list. Another excellent ride. Very good with airtime. Missing. Afterburn. Montu. Kumba. These are some really good coasters. Yeah, I'm a little bit B&M biased there, but those are some excellent rides. So that's what my take on the top steals. Now we get into the wood. Number 1, El Toro. Well, I'd love to see El Toro in the top 5. I really, really like the ride. Here's my problem. I take all factors into account when I rate a ride. Comfort of the harnesses of El Toro take it down for me. They're just not comfortable. They actually cause a little bit of pain during the airtime for me. It knocks it down the list. Add to that the wonderful new locker policy where you pretty much got to pay every time you want to ride because you got to pay for a locker to put your stuff in so that you can ride El Toro each and every time you want to ride El Toro. And that coaster completely gets thrown off the top 25 for me, mostly due to the adherence of park policy. This is a case of a park taking a ride that would be a top 25 ride and just completely ruining the enjoyment for me. Sadly, I have to say that. It's sad that it comes to that. Phoenix at Knoebels. Well, when it comes to that good old feel of an old school wood coaster, this coaster has it all. It has airtime. It is a great ride. It is smooth. It is well taken care of. It is operated in a way that I wish so many other parks would run their rides. This thing is a perfect example of how an old style traditional wood coaster should operate, run, and be maintained. Having this in the top 10 is 100% where it belongs. I'm not sure it belongs at number 2, but it definitely belongs in that top 10. It is a fantastic ride. If you haven't ridden it, it is definitely worth the trip out there to enjoy this ride. Boulder Dash. Well, this thing's sat on the number 1 for me for many, many years. It bounces back and forth based on how well it's been maintained given that season or how much work has been done to it. It is a fantastic ride. It is an absolute must ride. Definitely belongs in that top 10 and very high up. Voyage. I really try hard to love this coaster. I really try hard to love this coaster enough to be in the top 10. For me, it's probably near the cusp of just barely being in that top 10. I don't think it's a number 4 coaster, but it is definitely an excellent ride. Ravine Flyer 2 at number 7, I think it's underrated. Ravine Flyer 2 for me is probably one of the coolest layouts of a wood coaster, best use of the terrain that they have. I mean, the bridge that flies over the highway with the airtime that's on it is excellent. This ride is very, very fast, really doesn't have trim brakes or anything to really slow up the course, and really gives an excellent ride from beginning to end. Thunderhead. Well, what can I say about Thunderhead? Other than this is a great GCI coaster. Really belongs in this list. I'm very, very impressed with it. It'd be right on the cusp of where it's at. No, number 8's not a bad spot for it. Outlaw Run I haven't ridden. I've heard excellent things about it. I can understand where it is. Gold Striker. I was very, very impressed with this ride when I rode it at California's Great America. I really couldn't get enough of it. I thought it was an excellent designed wood coaster. Very, very fun. It has plenty of airtime. It does exactly what I'd like out of a good GCI twisted wood coaster. Mystic Timbers, really only seen the videos for this. Looks phenomenal, the reviews are excellent. Haven't ridden it yet, so we'll see where it places. Lightning Racer, rode it several times this year. I'm sorry. No longer in my top 25. It needs some work. It really does. Has the possibility to be there. It's just not there right now. Goliath I have yet to ride. Boardwalk Bullet. Unless it's changed considerably since the last time I rode it. I can't put it in the top 25, although I do very much like the ride. Woodon. Sorry, I haven't ridden it yet. Balder, 16. Wow. Very, very underrated. I find this ride to be extremely, extremely well done. Very good layout. Extremely fun. Very enjoyable. Very, very smooth. Top 10 wood coaster all the way around. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Thunderbolt at Kennywood. Another one of those traditional feel wood coasters. Really well designed, really well laid out, very fun. Has a good mixture of some spots with some airtime, got some lateral G's. You know, it's a really good use of the terrain. I really like the coaster. I really do. In the top 20, I can definitely see it. Ghost Rider. I have to ride it again before I can really offer much on that. Troy, I haven't ridden either. White Lightning at Fun Spot America. This is a coaster that really surprised me. Looking at it, you think, it's not very big, not very fast, kind of a family wood type coaster. Not going to be all that exciting. Boy, was I wrong. This thing is just straight out airtime from the beginning to the end. What an excellent ride. It just goes to prove that you can take a very, very small piece of land, a very small ride, and if you design it right, you can make it extremely fun. This is a great coaster. If you haven't ridden it, honestly, it's probably one of the best coasters in the Orlando area. It's absolutely a must ride. If you go into the Orlando area and you go to the parks like Universal and Disney and you skip out on White Lightning, I'm sorry to say you probably missed out on one of the best coasters you could have ridden in that area. This coaster is absolutely excellent. It's top 10 mention worthy, definitely. Rampage I need to get to. I haven't ridden it. Coney Island Cyclone. I'm going to ruffle some feathers here because I really enjoyed my Cyclone rides this year. I think the Cyclone in my list definitely climbed into the top 10. 22 is completely underrating it. If you really want an interesting ride, ride this thing in the back seat of the front car or the back seat of the back car. You will have all kinds of fun experiences, especially if you ride it by yourself in those seats, of changing sides and flying all about the car, getting tons of airtime, and seeing as you're sitting in nothing but a big, giant, comfy couch, it really is not painful. It's an excellent ride. Raven at Holiday World. Here we go. Raven at Holiday World is a good ride. It's a fun ride. It's not a top 25 ride for me. I'm sorry, folks. And Legend right behind it. Oh, geez, the Holiday World fanboys are out in numbers today. Legend is another coaster I think is highly overrated, not underrated. Definitely not a top 25 coaster. Shivering Timbers at Michigan's Adventure. Well, this is a fantastic ride. I actually put this in the top 10 of my list. Love the airtime, love the speed. Great ride. A lot more comfortable to me than El Toro, but has a lot of that airtime moment in the back. So this is a fantastic ride. Here's my big problem with the wood list. I've gone on all these coasters. I've listed off all of these. And outside of the top 25 coasters is Lightning Rod at Dollywood? Really? Is it just because you guys haven't ridden it? This coaster is by far one of the most insane wood coasters I've ever been on. It is number 1 on my wood coaster list. Not 25, not 26, not 50, not behind all these. This is the number 1 ride. This thing is absolutely full of airtime on that back half. And it is airtime that I am not familiar with seeing on any other wood coaster. The forces are incredible. The speed is phenomenal. This thing is just a class act ride. And it's not just because Dollywood's almost like my second home park. It's because this ride is just, it's a white knuckle ride. It really is. It is a ride that really, really does belong in the top 10, in the top 5. And in my view, it's number 1 overall. I think, sadly, it's being knocked down because of reliability issues. But if you get the chance to actually get there and ride it, you definitely need to enjoy a ride on this coaster. It is that type of a coaster. Let's go back to the park lists here. All right. Best food. Well, we got Dollywood and Knoebels in a deadlock for first and second. I can definitely see that. I can understand where the food there is excellent, and all 5 of the parks that are in that list, in my opinion, without having gone to Silver Dollar City, are going to have excellent food. Best water ride. Well, I can't disagree with Valhalla being number 1. That is an absolutely fantastic water ride. Dudley Do Right's Ripsaw Falls. I thought it was fun. I actually prefer the River Adventure to Dudley Do Right's Ripsaw Falls. I think the River Adventure is actually better themed and better use of the theming and more fun. I used to really like Journey to Atlantis in this spot, but Journey to Atlantis without a lot of the theme elements running really kind of fallen off. I really do like Magic Kingdom's Splash Mountain. I also like the Disneyland version of Splash Mountain. There's some really good water rides out there, but I can't really disagree too much with this list. I think it's actually pretty well done. We're going to skip the water water park rides. Best indoor coaster. Revenge from the Mummy keeps winning this over and over again, and I'm desperately trying to find an indoor coaster that's really better or as good. It is a coaster I like. In my view, I think the Rock and Roller Coaster is actually a more entertaining, more exciting ride to me. I'm really anxious to ride Space Mountain in Disneyland Paris in just a few weeks, and I think that will probably top out Revenge from the Mummy as well. Yeah, the over-the-shoulder harnesses don't really bother me. They don't hurt me, so for the most part, it's more about excitement. And Revenge from the Mummy really only has a couple of high-speed elements. For the most part, it's slow-moving. It only feels fast because it's in the dark ride. Space Mountain at Disneyland, absolutely love the ride. Excellent ride. Space Mountain at the Magic Kingdom, if it wasn't in a box, it'd be a very boring coaster. I'm not a huge fan of it. I do enjoy the ride, but like I said, Rock and Roller Coaster, where is it? It's not in the top 5? How is Rock and Roller Coaster not ahead of Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom? You know, come on. Best dark ride. The Twilight Zone Tower of Terror? Over the Forbidden Journey? Over the Haunted Mansion? Over Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts? Really, guys? Come on. Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, yes, it is fun, but it's very, very limited to the amount of actually being a dark ride. It's more of a drop tower with some theme elements. Escape from Gringotts is a more true dark ride, a lot more exciting, way, way better than Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Amazing Spider-Man, another phenomenal dark ride. Transformers is a great dark ride. Haunted Mansion is definitely a phenomenal ride. Love Knobel's Haunted Mansion. Even Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey is far better than the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. How this won the dark ride category, I have no clue. Blackpool also has a phenomenal dark ride as well. There's a lot of dark rides that I would definitely put over the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Cannot agree with this whatsoever. Best landscaping, well, I don't see a park in there with bad landscaping. It'd be a toss-up for a few of those as to which position they'd be up or down, but I think all of those parks are definitely deserving of being there. Busch Gardens Williamsburg is by far one of the prettiest parks out there, so I can't really argue with it. Best Halloween event. This is like just a gimme to Universal every year. Honestly, I'd be a little worried about giving it to Universal over and over again, mostly because of the crowd size and the amount that you'd be able to enjoy it. Best Christmas event. Dollywood just running away with that category, and having seen it now, I definitely understand why. They have a phenomenal Christmas event. If you haven't been, you really, really do need to go. Best Carousel going to Knoebels. I can't disagree. That carousel is by far one of the coolest things with the rings. It's just great. Friendliest park. I love Dollywood. I really do in this category. I think that is definitely up there, and I do notice that all of the parks in this list have some excellent staff. Really got no complaints there. Best Funhouse and walkthrough attraction. Really got no arguments with that list as well. My argument's really with the top steel and top wood coasters, and I know you're all mad about Lightning Rod not running as much as it should, but does it really deserve to be snubbed off the top 25 list? That's my take on where the golden tickets are. Feel free to argue with me. Feel free to try to correct me. But that's just my opinion, and that's what I get to say about it. And until some policy changes are in there, El Toro's, in my book, doesn't belong in the list. I won't put any coaster on that list that has the kind of policies that the park has in place that make it so that I can't enjoy the ride. If you can't enjoy the ride, I'm sorry, I can't put it high on the list. Thanks for watching. Peace out.